Hey, welcome everyone to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove. And before we get started with this week's episode, I just want to remind you that if you want to indulge yourself in everything From the Shadows podcast, and who doesn't, just go to fromtheshadowspodcast.com. You can find links to all of our social media. There's a contact button if you want to send me a message, tell me about an experience you had, complain about the tone of my voice on the mic, whatever you want to do. I'll read the email and get back to you. But definitely, if you have an experience and you want to come on and share it, we'd love to hear from you. And if you want to get a hold of me directly, just find me on Instagram at Shane Grove Author or on the Facebook pages. You can send a message and I will definitely get it. But yeah, come find us, join in all the fun, and just hang out with us a little bit. But other than that, I'm glad you're here with us right now because I have with me a highly recommended guest by one of my good friends in the podcast world. Brent Thomas sent this gentleman our way, and if he goes completely south, we're going to blame Brent. So from Texas front porch, the one and only Tex Wesson. Thank you for joining us, Tex.
How you doing, partner?
I'm doing
Appreciate you
all
having me.
I'm doing all right. I'm glad to have you on the show. So I just wanted to get right into it. You know, all Brent had to tell me was you had a Dogman encounter, and I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. So I'm gonna since you're a seasoned professional, just gonna turn the mic over to you and let you tell us about your experiences and your journey in the paranormal.
Well, it's been, man, been longer than I care to think about. I'll tell you that. The Dogman experience you're talking about, sighting. Um, I'm 58 now. This took place when I was 16,
Oh, okay.
and I'm nothing special. I'm just an old country boy. All right. Grew up hunting, camping, fishing, running trap lines. I mean, by myself, when I was young. And my daddy always told me, of course, when you're a young kid, everybody's kind of skittish of the dark, when you're young. And what he always told me, he goes, son, remember, there's nothing there at night that's not there during the day, you know? And I'm like, okay, and that kind of it stuck with me for a long time. There were a lot of things my daddy told me when, stuck with me. But anyway, I had, there's this old man and he owned, I think it was 1,200 acres. Um, Not far from about a mile from where I live. And the way things worked out there was these old fellers would give you permission to, go hunt or fish or whatever on their property. And in return, I mean, it was kind of an unspoken thing. In return, you were their basically their eyes and ears because you roam places on their property that they didn't see a whole lot, you know. And if you found a problem, you brought it to their attention or you fixed it right there on the spot, or, if you did bring it to their attention, you helped them fix it. And that was kind of the exchange. So I had permission to hunt this property and it was so cool of a property because half of it he had in a hayfield and the other half he hadn't touched. And it really thick woods. And it was so thick that you had to travel the game trails. And you'd be going down these game trails and then it would open up into these clearings that might have a scrub oak in the middle of it, but it was covered. The clearings had little short prairie grass in it, and they were different sizes. I mean, you might run across one that you barely get a 10 in, then you run across one that would be the footprint of a small house. So it was really just fantastic, and of course the game was very plentiful over there. So I had been hunting that area, and I was walking home, and um, it was, it was getting, the sun was starting to go down, but it was still daylight. And I was walking up the gravel road, and I was just about to climb over the fence and make a beeline across our pasture to the house, take a shortcut. And this thing, at the time, I didn't know, I didn't know what I was seeing. I mean, I really didn't. And it come out of the brush on the other side of the road on my left hand side and run across the road in front of me. And it was 25, 30 feet away from me. And the the whole thing was, took place in a blink of an eye. He run across the road and dove over our barbed wire fence into the field right there where I was fixing to, take a shortcut and go
Oh,
home.
jeez.
And I mean, that was the encounter. Boom, there it is. But the thing about it is, when this critter ran across the road in front of me, it was a lot taller than I was, and it was on two legs, and it looked like it was canine. I mean, there was no mistaking it. You know, um, it was. I remember it was had a dark coat, but it was it wasn't real woolly or nothing like that. The hair was really thin. You could see the skin underneath it, and the skin was kind of a light charcoal color, and but the hair that hung off of it was longer. It was like it hung off the forearms probably about 3 or 4 inches,
Mm.
and off the jawline and stuff like that. And but it was black, and he had some hints of silver in it, or white. I don't know if that's just its coat, or if it had maybe had some age on it or what. But I remember I've got this image that's frozen in my head, and every time I draw it, this is the way I draw it. But he turned his head about midways, running across the road. And he turned his head and he snarled at me, growled at me, and everybody talks about these critters. Of course, I didn't know what to call it, but a werewolf. I mean, that's the only thing I knew to call it at that point, because it's like we were talking, off air. It's like the term Dogman hadn't even coined at that time, and because I'm old enough to fart dust. So, um, but this thing, when it didn't have these glowing red eyes or nothing like that, it's just like looking at your dog. I mean, it was just brown eyes, nothing special. The snout it wasn't the long, narrow wolf snout that everybody talks about. A lot of people talk about. It was more of a blunt, shorter snout, maybe a rot type or
Yeah.
Rottweiler type.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a little longer than that, but that's the kind of. Um, I'll tell you this: if you ever go to Monster Mart down in Texarkana or in Falk, um, Arkansas, I made my first trip out there last year, and I walked out there. I walked in. I was walking through the store, and I didn't know they had a bust of a dog man sitting in the back room. And when I walked in, this thing froze me in my tracks because it looked so much like what I'd seen. I mean, my blood ran cold when I seen that thing because it was about the same size.
Which means somebody else saw something real similar to what you saw
Absolutely.
in order to make that,
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
like I have not really heard many people say that snout was it's either long or it looks like
Hmm.
a Doberman or something,
Yeah.
not so short. So that's very interesting because that's not something you that I've heard of a lot.
Right.
So
And
so the thing snarls at you. Did it was it just I mean, how did you feel? Like it was just snarling to say, yeah, I see you, it's your lucky day, I'm going, or
Pretty
what?
much, pretty much. I mean, don't get me wrong; it was an underwear changing moment, but it's I kind of felt like it was the thing was just telling me, stay right where you're at and you'll be all right. Just leave me alone. I'll leave you alone type thing. And I don't know if it was loping along and it screwed up and didn't see me or I don't know. I don't know how it couldn't have noticed me, or if it just didn't care. Or I don't know if I woke it up or what.
Or maybe it
Uh,
was chasing after something, and you were it was more focused on that. Maybe I don't know.
Well, yeah, but if it had been doing that, I would have seen it, whatever it was chasing, cross the road, and I didn't see nothing.
Okay.
And I had two rabbits hanging off my belt. I mean, so I was like basically chumming the waters for this thing.
I was gonna say,
Um,
yeah.
it didn't have the real high set, tall, pointed ears that everybody talks about because its ears was pinned back. Like, like if you upset a dog or a horse, they'll
Hmm.
pin them old ears back. And that's the way it kind of, when it turned its head and it snarled on me and them old ears was pinned back, I'm like, oh, you know. Um, but it had what I called it a mane. Because I didn't, that's what it looked like. But it started at like its hairline and then went down its back of its head and down its shoulders and then down to the back in a V. Now I don't remember it having a tail. Anytime I draw it, I don't draw a tail. But that don't mean it didn't have one. I don't know. There, of course, like I said, it took place so fast. I'm lucky I picked up the details I did. I do remember, like I said, the eyes. They were just. I remember going, God, it looked just like my dog. The teeth weren't. Some people describe these things as having all these gnarly looking teeth all over the place. No, it didn't. It just like dog's mouth. But one thing that struck me as strange when I really got to thinking about it after the fact was that, I say this all the time. I said that there was an old wives' tale that if you want to get a smart dog, you want to pick out a smart dog, get one with black in its mouth, and that's like I said, it's an old
Yeah,
country
yeah.
tale, but that's kind of like the whole thing with horses having four white socks. They ain't no good, but that's BS. But um, I remember when this thing, growled at me, snarled at me. I noticed that the mouth, the tongue, and the gums were black and pink mottled. It had black and pink,
Hmm.
splotches. And I was like, man, you know. But so everything, aside from being on two legs, this thing was canine. I mean, and it had hands, which was another odd fact. Um, they weren't human hands; they were human-like, but they were also kind of a raccoon-like hand too. They were long and spindly type thing, but um, it had a barrel chest on it, but it wasn't really built like Arnold Schwarzenegger type thing. It was, and I likened it more to an NBA player.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and it had the same build, much like the first Bigfoot that I ever saw. Um, but anyway, the critter ran across and dove over a 5 strand barbed wire fence and went down into what we call it love grass, and it's just field grass, and it grows about 3.5 feet high. And it went into the grass and it went down to all fours. When it went over the fence, dove over the fence. It went down to all fours and it was a very smooth transition. I didn't hear any bones or tendons snapping or anything like that. Just I remember the foam as it hit the ground, and the rustle of the grass, and I saw the grass move for a few yards and it was gone.
Now the legs it was running on, what do you remember about them?
Well, see, now that's something that's a huge debate about
Hmm.
these things. Everybody talks about these backward facing legs, these canine like legs. And and I catch a lot of flack for this because um, I think it's misidentification. Because going back, thinking about what I saw and then drawing it, it wasn't dog legged. It was up on its toes, and it has a very long, narrow heel that's up off the ground. And I had a discussion with somebody that was talking about it, and they they've experienced Bigfoot, but they think Dogman's BS. Okay, which is fine. They're BS until they're not. But
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
and they were trying to argue the fact, well, digigrade feet don't work as far as being bipedal, which is true. Okay, but this thing didn't have digigrade feet. Okay, it was just up on its toes.
Hmm.
And if you think about it, it makes perfect sense because they have more balance, they have more speed, they're more agile, just like a boxer up on its toes, you know? And so when this thing jumped over the fence and disappeared into the grass, I didn't have nothing but a little 410 that I didn't have any ammo for, you know, and the way the road was, our place was set up, our place was bordered by two roads, two gravel roads, and our driveway went down the other side of the place. So I had a choice, and I know this when I tell it, it seems like a long time, but it was like milliseconds when you make the decision. It's like, okay, I can follow him into the tall grass, or I can take the road. Well, I'm taking the road. And that added about probably another mile on the trip going around our place. And the whole walk is pretty much a blur, except for the first corner that I turned. And because I remember thinking, well, I've got basically a 3 foot club with me. And if this thing, if I'm on the road, maybe I'll get a swing at it. I mean, I remember thinking that. And I'm like I had a snowball's chance. You know, if this thing had wanted me,
He had a couple rabbits to like throw
yeah,
and
maybe
maybe
distract it for,
go
hit,
fetch or
fetch,
yeah, yeah,
fetch.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, but I remember walking in the back door and um, walked in the back door of the house, walked down the hallway and into the kitchen. And I pretty much just collapsed into a kitchen chair. And I put my shotgun on the table, the kitchen table, which is a big no no. You didn't take any guns in the kitchen. That's one of Mama's rules. If that ain't country, I'll get your ass. But and I remember my mom being in the kitchen. Now, I don't remember if she was cooking, doing dishes, just cleaning. I don't remember. But I remember being there and I remember turning around and I think she was going to scold me for having my gun in the kitchen. And when she saw me, she says, "Dear God, what's wrong with you? You're white as a ghost." And I tried, Shane, I swear, I tried to tell her and I physically could not speak. Well, my sister lived on the same property about 30, 40 yards away. Well, she jumps on the phone and calls my sister. My sister's 20 years older than I am. Okay. Um, She calls my sister. She says, get over here. Something's wrong with your brother. She comes over. They talk to me. They're trying to get me to tell me what happened and everything. I cannot. I mean, they were checking me for gunshot wounds. They were everything. Did you get snake bit? What's going on? It took them better part of an hour to settle me down enough where I could talk. And when I told them what happened, they didn't tell me I was lying. They didn't tell me I was crazy. But they did try to rationalize maybe what I saw. They said, well, maybe you saw a big dog or a wolf or something, or maybe a home, we called them hobos at the time,
Mhm.
you know, and, it spooked you and your imagination took over, whatever. I'm like, no, this is what I saw. And over the years, I stuck to my guns and we even got to, it became kind of a family joke. Not me, but that's kind of how my whole family deals with stuff is humor,
Mhm.
you know. Um, so we gave it a pet name, and I think it kind of helped me deal with it because it um, kind of took the monster version out of it, like
Yeah.
out of my head a little bit. Um, but after after this happened, I went through, and I was 16 when this happened.
Okay.
I
Yep.
went through a period of almost a year that I didn't go anywhere. I quit camping. I wouldn't go hunting. I wouldn't go anywhere by myself. When I had to go down and feed the animals or whatever, go down at the barn God forbid, go down at the barn at night. I went loaded from bear. My dad would go, "What are you doing?" I'd take his gun. He had 12 gauge. I just had 410. And he goes, "What are you doing?" Because I was like loading buckshot and slugs into his gun. I said, well, whatever, snakes or I heard some coyotes or whatever. And if I had to go from my house to my sister's or vice versa, and it was dark, it was at a dead run. We had what people call now, the popular name for it now is a booger light. It's basically a street light.
Hmm.
We had
Come
one installed on our property.
comes on at night, right? Is that what you're yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if that's the only thing you got for,
It ain't much.
1,000 acres around, I mean, it's,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
but after a time, I got to where I got mad because I felt like I was being bullied. Um, and I was like, man, and I got to talking to myself a lot and questioning my own sanity a lot and trying to talk myself out. There was times where I tried to talk myself out of what I saw because I couldn't get my mind wrapped around it. Because these things ain't supposed to be real,
No.
you know. And I said, I'm not going to let this thing stop me from doing what I love. you know. And I started taking baby steps. I'd, camp out in the front yard, and for a while, and I'd go, go fishing and maybe do a little hunting, and then, go camping out in the pasture, and then, and after a while, almost a year, I got back to doing what I was doing. Well, then I was going to that place that I was telling you about, and there was an old deadfall that had fell over the fence that we hadn't sawed up and repaired the fence yet. And that's how I'd go over the fence. Come up out of this little dry creek bed and run up this deadfall and jump over the fence. And I was just about to run up on that deadfall, and I heard what I thought was somebody walking in the brush. And there was a set of, it wasn't impossible because there was a set of twins that I went to school with that lived on the other side of this place that hunted this place too. So I thought, well, maybe it's one of them, maybe it's the old man. I don't know, you know. So I hollered at whatever it was, and I said, "Hey, who's out there?" And it stopped. I said, "Hey, if there's somebody out there, let me know." And it just kind of either took a step or shifted its weight. And I said, look, if that's, I said, hey, David, Doug, if that's one of y'all, let me know. You need to say something. And it shifted its weight again. And I said, look, if you don't say something, I'm going to shoot. And it just shifted its weight. So I did hindsight 2020. It's probably the stupidest thing I ever did. I popped around off up in the air. And that's when all hell broke loose. This thing come barreling through the trees. I mean, branches breaking the whole 9 yards, and I didn't. And of course, when this thing's not saying nothing, talking to me or whatever, I'm already starting to have flashbacks, right? And when this thing come charging through the brush, I took tail and run. I didn't want to know if that was what it was. I didn't care. I didn't look back. I ran the entire mile back to the house, or better than a mile. Really. And I didn't, if it was fixing to snatch me up, I didn't want to know, you know. Um, and I got set back on my heels for a couple more months, and golly, but I said, and I started telling myself, this thing's had two chances at me and it didn't hurt me, you know. So I started going right back to what I was doing, and nothing happened until a while later. I was at the house by myself one weekend. Parents went visiting family or whatever. I guess I had to be either, I guess I had to be 17 when this happened. And it was storming. I mean, bad. And I love storms. I always have. So I'm looking out the kitchen. Well, I'm looking out the kitchen window, watching the lightning flash and everything. And Daddy had a garden behind one of his gardens behind the house, and then our back fence. And there were some power poles that went down that fence line. And the lightning flashed, and I saw what I thought. I said, "Man, is that something? What the hell is it?" And every time the lightning would flash, I could see something standing next to one of the power poles, and it would change positions. And I'm like, "What in the hell is that?" And I'm watching it, and I'm watching it, and I'm watching it, and everything starts coming back again. I said, "My God, this thing's watching me." It's having this pouring rain, thunder, lightning, and it's watching me. It knows I'm in here.
And knows you're alone, probably.
Yeah. So I go and get Daddy's gun and load it up. Call a buddy of mine from school. I'm trying to tell him what's going on. He's busting my
Mm-hmm.
and oh whatever, dude. Hung up the phone. I ain't got time for this mess, type thing. So I sat down on the couch opposite of the window in the living room, and I could still see, when it would flash, I could still see it. And I fell asleep sitting on the couch with my daddy's gun in my arms. I went back out the next day. I'm going to see if I can find some sign of this thing. And it had come a frog strangler that night. I mean, it was bad. And so any footprints or anything was gone. So I couldn't find any sign of anything standing around that power pole. And I thought, well, when I first woke up the next morning, I thought, well, maybe I was seeing things. Maybe it was a post or something, right, or a tree next to
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, there wasn't nothing there. So then you fast forward, and I only talked about this thing one time. And it was me and a bunch of buddies of mine. We were playing cards.
Mm-hmm.
And there may, or I can neither confirm it or not, there may be in a few beers involved. But
Statute of
so
limitations is way over. If
yeah, yeah, right. So um we're swapping stories and everything. And of course I said, well, yeah, whatever. And I told my story. And of course they're all joshing me.
Mhm.
That one buddy of mine, he got real quiet. And then after we kind of got up and was walking around and stuff, I said, man, what's wrong with you? You got awful quiet. He said, man, he said, I think I saw what you saw. I'm like, what? Well, he didn't see what I saw, but he saw something different. Um, what he saw was more, Sam, the way he describes it's more of like a hellhound.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
and I mean, this cat went on to be um, a ranger. He went on. He just retired from law enforcement. That type of thing. So, and he still sticks to his guns today about that story. But maybe I'll hook you up with him.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that
But
story for sure. And did
because
he? So did he live close to?
he lived about 10 miles from me.
Okay, which for people listening that don't know what growing up and out in the country is, that
That's
ain't that
nothing.
that's not that far.
No, that's nothing. You know. Um, I mean, when you're driving 10 miles to go grocery shopping,
Hmm. Yeah.
or you ride I know, I know how this is going to sound. When you ride your horse 2 miles to go to school, you know,
Hey, was it
that
uphill both ways?
it was uphill both ways in the snow in the middle of Texas. Yeah. Um, but fast forward, a lot of years, and I was at work, and I've worked night shift most of my life. I'm just a natural night owl, and I was at work. We had some downtime, and I was watching YouTube. This was 2015, I think, 2016. And I'm thumbing through YouTube and I start seeing this stuff pop up. Dogman, Dogman. What the hell, Dogman? I start listening to the stories, listening to the accounts.
Hmm.
I'm like, holy crap, people saw what I saw. So I contacted this young lady, Danielle Stedman. Her channel's Dogman Diaries, and contacted her. And she had had an experience, terrifying experience. And she talked to me. She goes, "Why, contact me, let's talk." And we had long conversations about what had happened. And she started asking me questions. She goes, "Before you had your sighting, was there anything weird going on around the area? Was there any, things coming up and missing or, that type of thing?" And there was. We would hear stories, hear ranchers and farmers gripe
Hmm. Hmm.
about, you know, uh, a calf getting tore up or killed. Same thing with a foal or chickens or whatever. And without fail, it got blamed on one or two things. It was either a big cat, which we did have them in the area. They're rare. They move through their territory, or a pack of wild dogs. Now, I got to tell you, there was a lot of there was a lot of us that roamed all over that country and went back in these woods, and none of us ever ran across this pack of wild dogs that everybody talked about. Never saw.
I've been a mailman for 26 years. I never have. I mean, that's my biggest fear is a pack of
Right.
wild dogs. I don't think. I don't think packs of wild dogs are as prevalent as what people want to give them credit
No, they're
credit
more
for.
prevalent. They're more prevalent in the inner cities than they are.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
you're absolutely right. They you do hear more about packs of, and I mean 5 or 6 together, strays or something
Right.
that form like a unit. And yeah, but out in the country, people would
The
shoot a
occasional stray. I
people
mean,
would shoot a pack of wild dogs
oh,
because
absolutely. Absolutely.
no offense to the people who love
Yeah.
packs of wild dogs,
Yeah.
but
Right.
that's what would happen out in the country is if a
But
pack of wild dogs, yeah, was given trouble, they would be dealt with.
about a year before I had my sighting, we had a dog come up missing. And
He joined the pack of wild dogs. It's a lot more fun. So
absolutely.
there you
So
go.
he came up missing, and the only way we found him is we started smelling him.
Ooh.
And he come to find out he was underneath the house. So, you know, Daddy ain't gonna go under there. I got
Mm.
to crawl in there and grab the big dog and bring him out. And when I did, this poor thing looked like somebody had held it up by its front legs and just gutted him.
Ooh.
And like I said, that's before I saw anything. Right now, my dad said, "Oh, he probably got into it with the bobcat, and blah blah blah." And all that. Okay, well, that's good enough for me. I mean, um, because they were definitely around the area. I mean, whatever. So, and then I told her that, and then there was these people that were leasing or renting or whatever this property right next to where I hunted, and they just had their horses out there, and they were city folk, but
Mm.
they kept their horses out there, and they come out and ride them on the weekends type thing. Well, one day they just them and I mean, they didn't live out there, but their horses were just gone. They just packed them up and left. Right. Well, being a nosy ass kid, I go rummaging around out there, and I find almost a fully intact horse skeleton. Still had hide on it, but it wasn't like scattered. Okay. It was almost fully intact. And I was telling her about this. And I mean, at the time, I just thought it was cool to have a horse skull in the rock garden for mama. And but she said, well, she goes, that may have been a kill site, and that's maybe why they took their horses and left. And that may be why it wasn't scattered, because it had this thing scent on it. So when you start looking back and you start connecting all the dots, man, it's
Well,
it's been
and
around in the area for a long time.
being a horse owner, which we own pleasure horses and race horses. You, if your horse dies, you just
Hmm.
don't leave it lay
No.
out in the. Okay, horses are like, I mean, they're just like your dog. I mean, they have
Hmm.
personalities. They're super smart. They become, you know, so that definitely was something drug. I mean, and count on one. I can count on like 2 fingers of things I could think of that in the wild that could drag a horse away
Yeah.
without the horse kicking it to death. I mean,
Right.
uh, like a bear. A
Yeah.
bear, and
Yeah.
that would be about it. At a pack, not even a pack of wild dogs.
Right. Right.
I mean, horses just are not going to. They're not going down easy,
No.
and
No.
for something to drag that off and then just wow, jeez, that right there is a. I mean, that's an amazing find right there to find that
Yeah.
because that right there tells you something definitely was out there. Um, that meant business for sure.
Yeah, because and another thing, I mean, it's like you said, you're not even if your horse dies, and I've had horses die.
Mm-hmm.
I had one get struck by lightning one time. Um,
Holy moly! Okay.
you bury them.
Yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
don't just let them. You just don't let you don't feed the damn coyotes. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It all kind of points to this critter being around for quite a while, you know.
Now,
And
did you ever talk to the landowner and say anything about it, or was it one of
no,
those where if you
no,
told him, he'd be like, "Okay, dude, you're not going back on my land." Yeah.
yeah, no, I didn't. The only time if we weren't, aside from family, and it would just get brought up every once in a while, when I'd come back in from a couple of days, being out in the brush or whatever. Well, did you see old so and so? No, I didn't see old so and so, And aside from telling my buddies that night, I never even talked about it, because yeah, you,
Yeah,
you
who are you going to tell, and
get told
who?
you're crazy or you're lying, one of the two,
Mm-hmm. Now,
But
so once you talked to her, then was it, and you started seeing there was more and more people coming forward, did you, does that kind of spur you on to finding out more and trying to
it,
figure out what exactly this was that you saw?
yeah, it did, and I got to be real good friends with her, and ended up doing some voice work on her channel for her, and that's how this whole thing got started. I mean, and then I hooked up. Um she got away from doing YouTube for a while, and I hooked up with this old boy out of Oklahoma, and he goes, "You ought to come research with me." I'm like, "All right, whatever. It's just a walk in the woods to me,
Mm-hmm.
whatever." Because I figure, y'all go big hump, see Bigfoot with me and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't worried about old Bigfoot because hell, I done seen the scariest thing out there. Is the way I looked at it, you know. And I grew up with stories of Bigfoot. My family's from Texarkana. I mean, Falk, Arkansas is right next door. I was hearing stories about the Falk Monster before the Falk Monster movie came out. I mean, so um, it wasn't no I wasn't no stranger to Bigfoot or nothing. And so I went I yeah I started researching with him up in Oklahoma, and then me and him got sideways, and he moved off, and I've been researching that area ever since. And um, I've had 2 daylight sightings and several nighttime sightings and a lot of encounters.
Holy
And
smokes!
yeah,
So you want to share your big,
yeah,
yeah,
sure, why not?
I'd love to hear about that, and how, and
Sure.
especially the difference in how you felt from what you saw.
uh, you
I'm
know,
curious to hear that.
well, and the thing about it is, it's like I said, I figured I'd done run into the scariest thing out there.
Hmm.
Bigfoot wasn't nothing, right? And don't get me wrong, the first time I saw one, um, you're awestruck, and it's more exhilarating for me than it is anything else. Um, I could quit doing the YouTube thing today and just go out there and have these experiences, and I'd be perfectly happy. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was actually my first time out there when we pulled up at about 8:30 in the morning, and we pulled up on the edge of this hayfield, and there was a thin tree line, maybe 10 yards thick, that separated this hayfield and this wheat field. The wheat was about 4 feet high at that time. And I park my truck, and he gets out, and I get out, and I'm kind of taking in the lay of the land. Never been there before. So I'm trying to pick out some landmarks and that type of thing, because I'm fixing to go down in the Red River bottoms. I don't want to get turned around and get lost down there. And so he's getting in his camera or whatever, and I didn't have nothing but my cell phone with me, and um, you know, a knife on my hip. Like I said, I just going for a romp in the woods. I didn't care, and because I really didn't, I didn't expect to see anything. I'll be honest with you, I really didn't. And I'm kind of looking through this tree line into this wheat field, and this thing stands up in the middle of this wheat field, about 50 yards off, and stands up. Looks like he's gonna. It looks like looks both ways, like he's fixing to cross the street. and then takes off running down into the bottoms. And I saw him from about the waist up till he hit the fire break, and I saw him about 2 steps from head to toe. Then he went into the trees and he was gone. And my exact words were, I'll be damned, there goes one right there. And he's like, what?
So it's like he was sleeping or something out in the middle of the wheat field.
I don't think he was sleeping. I think I think they put lookouts out. And I
Okay.
think a lot of them, not all of them, because they're very intelligent creatures that I've come to find out. They're very intelligent creatures. But that being said, I think a lot of them have the mentality of, or the mindset of, if I can't see you, you can't see me. You know, and when he didn't, and being down and hunkered down in that wheat field, he couldn't see anybody. So he just took up and he heard us, I'm sure, you know, and he just stood up and took off running. And I said, well, I'll be damned. There goes one right there. And he was like, no kidding, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, yeah, man, you know, and I told him what he looked like. And it was, you can't get a whole lot of detail, you know, but he was built like a basketball player. He had a round head. He didn't have a conical head. He was solid black, slick fur, you know, or hair. And so where we were going, we went down in the bottoms and we took a left, which would cross his path where he was headed. And we're walking down through the bottoms, and we every once in a while we'd hear something up on the ridge, and we'd hear some like footsteps and something going through the brush, paralleling us. And then we'd hear a couple of tree knocks or mouth pops, whatever they're doing. I think they probably do both. And then we walk another 100 yards or so, and then we hear the same thing. And what we think maybe what was going on is he was pushing a family group in front of us, so you know we wouldn't walk up on him. And I mean, it makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first encounter with a Bigfoot, you know.
Sounds like it
then
went better than the
the
dog.
Dogman, yeah. Well, then my second daylight sighting was a few years after that. I had is after me and him got sideways and everything, and I had been researching this area. My wife didn't know. My team evidently didn't know. But I was going down there for a few years by myself, and I'd go down there, and I wouldn't go down there and just walk around for a couple of hours, you know, because a lot of these researchers, they'll go down and walk around in the woods for a couple of hours and go back home and call it boots on the ground research, right? Drives me up the wall. I go down there and I spend, you know, 2 or 3 nights down there by myself. Hell, I've been doing it all my life, you know, it ain't no different to me, you know. And I start having all these encounters and weird stuff happen, man. It's just things you can't explain, you know. But then a few years later, we were scoping out a campsite with a couple of buddies of mine, and we stepped out of the truck, and I got my binoculars out, and I'm looking into the trees, you know, through my binoculars, and I see something about 40 yards off, and it looks like, you know, them fuzzy calico cats but they're black and they're white and they're gray, you know, that type of thing, and they got kind of a fuzzy coat. That's what this critter looked like. And he was hugging a tree, and he had his head on the other side of the tree. And I'm looking at him through the binoculars, and I'm like, what in the hell? And I'm like, y'all got to see this. And I'm trying to hand the binoculars. This is when I learned a hard lesson. If you're gonna do this, folks, get at least a mono stand for your binoculars, okay? If not a tripod, because handing binoculars back and forth trying to spot something 40 yards in the trees ain't happening. I'm just saying. So by the time I got the binoculars back, he was gone. So we went in and checked out this tree that he was standing at, and there was a path wore out around this tree down to the bare ground, down to the hard pack, and a trail that was worn out the same way headed off. And it was the trail purposely missed dead branches laying on the ground. I mean, so evidently what this is, and I get we're for lack of a better term, we're their TV. Okay. We're their entertainment. And I think they just they'll sit and watch. They'll get back in the trees and they'll sit and watch these campsites, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Because I
I've
mean,
heard,
look, I mean, they get most people, unfortunately leave a bunch of crap when they go camping, you know. There's no telling how much stuff these critters have got back in their home camps, you know.
yes, you're probably absolutely right.
Mm.
Uh, so this thing was just trying to camouflage itself against the
Oh yeah.
tree.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it had the mentality or the mindset of if I can't see you, you can't see me, because it had its head on the other side of the tree and it was hugging this tree. It's like, okay, I'm hid, type thing. But both of the things that I saw were somewhere around 7.5 feet tall. Well, the first one I saw was probably 8 feet because we measured the wheat and it was 4 feet high and I could see it from the waist up. You know, that
Mm-hmm.
first one I saw. And the other one, according to where as close as I could, the, measuring, he was probably about 7.5 feet tall. The second, but I've been fortunate enough to have several people go out with me at that place and have their first sightings, have their first encounters. So, and that's just, and I've gotten to where, man, it's, I get so, it's just, I don't know how else to say it. It just brings so much joy to me when the people that's never seen these or experienced these critters have that first experience, and it's like, well, man, see, you're not a believer anymore. You're a knower, you know, and um, but you run into some weird stuff too, out there. I don't think there's a researcher out there that's worth their salt that can say that they haven't had something happen out in the woods that they can't explain, you know. And but this thing kind of mushroomed on me. I mean, it's I've been on Small Town Monsters, been on Coast to Coast Radio. I travel across the country, speak at conferences, that type of thing. And I've been doing this research for since about 2017 now, and it's just hard to believe that I've been doing it for almost 10 years. But um, it paid off because in 2023 we got I I red circles are my nemesis. I hate pictures with red circles. I can't stand them because if there's something good enough in that picture to catch, to see, you don't need a red circle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying and I know a lot of people are going to beat me up about that, and that's fine. But if it's good enough to see, if it's good enough, if it's there, if it's clear enough, if it's good enough picture, I shouldn't have to point it out to you.
Well, you looking at it didn't have a red circle around it when you took the picture.
No, no,
so you,
always,
so you know what I'm saying?
always,
So,
we'll have public campouts every once in a while, and we'll invite everybody, and fry fish, that type of thing. And I always threaten that I'm going to buy me a bunch of red hula hoops and hang them in the trees so everybody can take pictures. But um, but
careful what you wish for.
oh, I know, right? So in 2023, out there in this place I researched, there's a old cemetery, and it sets up about 100 yards up on a hill in the woods, and it's an old decrepit cemetery. Youngest death date's 1924.
Holy moly! Okay.
And some bad juju out there at this place. Some bad energy, man, floating around there. But so anyway, I'm doing a live by myself. I'm up there in the cemetery by myself. And then I had a safety team down below because this is after I got grounded. Because I was going, like I said earlier, I was going out there by myself a whole lot, and everything. And then um, we were supposed to have a meeting, and it was supposed to be about something else, and team meeting and everything. And it turned into basically an intervention of text. You can't go back out there by yourself. And because spring chicken anymore, what happens if and I'm famous for falling at least once when I'm out there. And so, and I was griping to my wife about it after him. I'm like, yeah,
It's one of those what happens if a text falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
it.
And she goes, "You mean to tell me you've been doing this by yourself?" Oh, she was pissed. She didn't know. But anyway, uh, so anyway, I'm up in the cemetery roaming around in the middle of the night by myself. And I got a safety team down at the bottom of the hill, about 100 yards off, 150 yards off, maybe, something like that. So my phone goes dead. I'm up there for almost 2 hours. My phone goes dead, and they run up the hill, right? They were in such a hurry that they left the keys in the truck, and my truck was down there, and their truck was down there. Thousands of dollars of electronics were in the back seat of the truck. There was a bear-proof Yeti cooler in the back of the truck. Pardon me. They left the keys in it. They just took off, right? So I don't know, about 30 minutes or so, we get back down to the trucks, and we're walking around the trucks and everything. And I don't remember who it was. I don't remember who the first one was to see them, notice them. But we found these handprints all over our trucks. And we were able to do what we could make out was three different sets of prints. And of course, we'd already tromped all over the ground and everything. So footprints were out the window. But there's this one handprint that is just freaking awesome. It's on my truck, and it's a handprint, a full handprint, and a forearm print. And the the prints are so good, we got dermal ridges on the fingerprints.
Oh, wow.
And I've had them looked at by law enforcement fingerprint experts, wildlife experts, and they all tell me the same thing. I can't tell you what it is, but it's not human. Now, the handprints, they're human-esque, and that they were smaller than anybody on the team. So that was
Oh,
really
so they were small.
they were small. And but you can't replicate the spread between the forefinger and the thumb. It's like the thumb is located further down in the hand.
Like an ape.
Yeah.
Like their thumb is
And
like, yeah.
so
Hmm.
um but what the kicker is, the fingerprints go horizontal. Human fingerprints without fail swirl.
Yeah.
These go horizontal, they're straight across. That's a primate, or so we thought, until just several weeks ago, in fact. And there's been a whole new wrinkle thrown into this game. Now, a little bit of the backstory: when we got back down, and we noticed the handprints, and we're looking around, we're like, "What the hell?" We're looking for missing stuff out of the trucks. Nothing was touched except the cooler. The bear-proof Yeti cooler was closed and latched when they went up, and the tailgate was up. Okay, in their truck. Came back down, the tailgate was down, and the cooler had been opened and closed, but not latched. There was water and ice dripped over the tailgate where something had dipped its hand into the cooler and got a drink. There was two handprints up on the back of his cab, just like this, with water dripped down between them. So one of these critters, and I'm not, there for a long time. I mean, it was, we didn't see what made them, but we all, we know the critters are down there. We know the Bigfoot's down there. Juvenile Bigfoot. That's what we were thinking. And I still think that, but Several weeks ago, I'm at work and I'm it's slow and I'm kind of reading news stories, and I always go through and read the science stuff, new discoveries, that type of thing. And I saw this, and you may have seen it, I don't know. I saw this where in France they had discovered what they're calling a Neanderthal thumbprint beside a cave painting, and they dated it to 48,000 years ago. And when I saw this thumbprint, I almost choked because it's almost identical to the fingerprints that I've got.
Hmm.
And I've got a video on my channel where I compare the two, and you get to see the whole print with the forearm and everything. It's the best one we've got. And then I zoom in on the thumbprint, and I compare the images side by side with the Neanderthal print and the thumbprint from my truck. Now I don't care what you want to call it. Call it Bigfoot, you can call it ape man, you can call it Neanderthal, you can call it whatever you want. I don't care. But the bottom line here is if you trust their dating, we've got something that was running around 48,000 years ago that's leaving the same fingerprints as something that left its damn prints on my truck in 2023. Now,
And it's
you can make that what you want, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the best physical evidence that's came out of the field in years.
yeah, I would say
And
because
I got to tell you, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in the whole community as a whole, because when I put that video up, I thought, man, this is going to blow the doors off of stuff, right? No, barely any traffic on that video. People always say, "Oh, we want evidence. We want." No, you don't. You want blurry pictures. That's what they want. They want blurry pictures.
well,
You throw hard evidence at people,
everybody when
they
they
ain't gonna
get
look at it.
everybody when they get done watching this is going to go over to your channel because we're going to tell them where to go, and they're going to watch this video, and then you guys are going to like it, and you're going to leave a comment and say, Tex, this is the best evidence we've ever seen. We're here from the Shadows podcast.
I
So
hope y'all come on over, man. We're friendly on the front porch.
well, I want to, that is, and you're right, that's totally amazing because of the difference between humans, fingerprints, and to have that sort of, and of course the dating part
Yeah,
is, people argue that all the time,
right.
but regardless, it's old. You know what I'm saying? And it's
Yep.
something specific to whatever was during that time period and did those cave paintings. It's not
Yep.
like it was 500 years ago.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But I did want to go back and ask, like, so when you say strange things happen out
Mm-hmm.
there, are you talking about, like, because a lot of people see lights,
Mm-hmm.
and there's the debate of, you know, are they are they something that happened together, or is one caused by the other? Or so what are some of the strange things that you've had experience out there?
Man. Okay. So when I first started going out in the field, I started putting for lack of a better term, a team together. I wanted as many tools as because I was running into some weird crap, and I didn't have. I'm not one of these guys that carries a camera. I'm just not. And so I wanted tools, right? And I wanted people that knew how to use them, knew what they were doing. So I started having paranormal team join the cryptid team. You know,
Mm.
so we had
Hmm.
more tools in our tool belt because we're running into a bunch of weird crap. We might as well document it and have people know what the hell they're talking about. Document it. And I want them to be. I don't want them to. I don't want them to be these folks that every little snap is a Bigfoot and every little,
Hmm.
you know, thing is every other thing is a ghost. I don't want that, you know.
Mhm.
Um, you have to that's the last thing we go to. Okay, just saying. I do a little thing on my channel called "Name That Critter," and because another pet peeve of mine is these people that I've been out in the woods for 50 something years. I know what every animal sounds like. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. And I have proven that. And I'll put these sounds of these critters on here on my channel and have everybody guess at what they are. So yeah, and it's a teaching tool. It's not. I'm not rubbing anybody's nose in it. I'm just.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
teaching tool. You know, these everyday animals can make sounds that you've never dreamed of them making. You
Mhm.
know, a bullfrog will scare the living daylights out of you if he screams. Bullfrogs are terrifying when they scream. But anyway, um, strange things. Well, one of the strangest things that we've ran across was I had Brandy Butcher, and you need to get her on the show too. Um, I was good enough. She was out there researching with us one night. It was me, Brandy, buddy of mine, Nicholas, and a friend of hers, Holly. And we went up to the cemetery. And when we first got up there, people do a lot of good, bad mojo up there. I mean, they do. We found a candle one of those tall glass candles that had been burned all the way down and was nothing left. And there was something burned inside of it. And there was four pictures, I'm sorry, laying on the ground, modern pictures. Somebody been putting some
Putting
X's
that,
on some
put
of
yeah,
them.
putting
But
that.
so anyway, we go on about and walk through the cemetery. Nothing really happens, and we're coming, but we're on our way out. Well, Nick had a thermal, and he's looking through the remote. He goes, "What in the hell is this?" So we pass this thermal back and forth between the four of us, and we watch this thing, and it's probably no more 15, 20 feet away from us. But what it was about the size of a big cantaloupe, or you know, um, it was just a ball of heat. You couldn't see it with your naked eye. We could only see it on the thermal. And it was hovering about 12, 18 inches off the ground. And it was undulating it looked like a bubble in a lava lamp. That's what it looked like. Okay. And we're sitting there and we're all four watching this thing. So I walk towards this thing and it moves away from me. And when I walked back, it moved back with me and kept the same distance. So it moved with intelligence. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yep.
And we watched it, watched it, and it gradually just cooled off and cooled off and cooled off and cooled off and disappeared. So that's one of the strangest things that we ran across out there. Now I'm doing a private investigation. I've been on this private investigation better than a year. It's 2,000 acres of private land down here in Texas, and there ain't nothing but gas wells and cows on this thing, and we've got exclusive access to it. And there's been reports of five different. They said the landowner said five different dogmen they've seen on this place, and I may have caught one on film. Of course, it's crappy, you know. I know what I can see with my naked eye, but you know, it's. But anyway, had my first crawler experience out there several months ago. Um, that was weird. But yeah, we had one night where we were all up in the cemetery, and there was four of us, and I don't know, I felt like something had, like was trying to get on me or something, you know, and I was like, and then it was me and the paranormal team, which was a mother and daughter team, and then it was my two of my trackers, and they were over on about 20 yards away from us. We're running, you know, one of them ghost boxes that, you know,
Hmm.
you know, words that come across, and
Yep.
things.
Yep.
And my truck and their truck was parked down at the bottom of the hill, and her husband was in their truck sitting down there. Okay, and there was four of us up in the cemetery. We get three words over the ghost box, and this just kicked things off. We get solo beast Grace. Okay, well, back at camp, now her husband's a big old boy. Okay, and the one of the guys that was with us up there, one of my trackers, had popped off and said, "Damn, he's a beast." Back at camp, he was down there by himself, so there's solo, right? Grace is the name of my truck. I named my truck after Grace Budd, which was a Albert Fish was a serial killer. It was his last victim. Not wholeheartedly, she reached out beyond the grave and got him busted. But that's the name of my truck is Grace. So that was really odd, you know. And so then we're standing there and we're next to like well, I think what is a used to be a family plot. Um, and I've got a headlamp on, and she's carrying this light that's like 6 inches by 9 inches, to blot out the sun type thing, and you can dial it up and down. Okay, the intensity. They both go dark at the same time. I had to physically turn my light back on, and when she turned her light back on, the intensity was reversed on it. I don't know how that works, but that happened. Of course, it's digitally controlled, and these things manipulate, electronic devices. The same time that this is going on, my two trackers are over here seeing what they thought was a couple of big cats up in trees. Okay. They weren't using lights. And well, these cat like things jumped down out of the trees and then got up on two legs and then went back down to all fours. Well, they finally hit them with a light. And every time they'd hit them with a light, they'd disappear. Turn the light back off, they'd be right back where they were. So we decided it was time to go ahead and back out, and everything. So we started walking back down the hill. And one of my trackers says, "I want to go check out, over here for some reason." And there's a mound of sand over on just sitting over there and off the side of the trail. He goes over there. I guess something caught his eye. I can't remember. There was two there was two hooven prints that were about 12 inches in diameter. Bipedal hoof prints. What?
So there's a Clydesdale.
So
There's a Clydesdale out.
there's a Clydesdale walking around with his hind legs. So I don't. We like I said, we deal with a lot of stuff. That place down there, it's got a dark history, a real dark history. The whole area was used as a body dump by the mafia for a while. There's been bodies found throughout the years down there.
You can do
Yeah,
a lot on two. You can do a lot on 2,000 acres.
well, no, this is a
Oh, this is
different
a
place.
different. Oh, it's a different. Oh God, that's a different place. Holy smokes! Holy
Yeah,
smokes!
this is over where I had my first Bigfoot sighting and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the 2,000 acres is a that's a whole nother hill. Yeah,
Holy smokes! Well, I'm going to tell you what. I don't. I don't blame your wife and your rest of your team for being mad about you going out by
yeah,
yourself, because some of those places don't sound like they should be explored by yourself. It's one thing. I think it's one thing if it's just Bigfoot. But all the other stuff is, and I'm with you. Like I just had that discussion today with a paranormal group about a project we're talking about where I think I want to get this paranormal group out into the. Now, I'm not a big, I don't go out and research and stuff like that, but I think though that there's something to be said about the paranormal side of what goes on out in the woods that
yeah,
people automatically think, oh, it's Bigfoot or it's something else.
yeah,
And yeah, I just don't think that that's the case all the time. I think the woods is a lot more. I think there's a lot more paranormal. ghost, evil, whatever you want to say, happened in the woods than there is in my basement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, well, and I think what I'm finding out is all these places that like Blind Frog Ranch,
Hmm.
Skinwalker Ranch, LBL, and the place I research, which is Brown Springs, Oklahoma. I'll put it out there. Everybody knows. Um, Even Boynton Springs down there, in Texas. But these places seem to have one thing in common, and it's ley lines.
Hmm.
And ley lines they shift, okay, but maybe that's what we're seeing with all this weird stuff. Maybe that's what we're seeing is when these ley lines cross in different places, the veil thins. And
Hmm.
that's when these things can, come across or whatever. And it may be the same thing with the Bigfoot jumping dimension. I don't know. Okay. I'm not in that camp. But the first time I see one come out of a portal, or the first time I have one talk to me in my head, I'll be the first one to wave my woo flag. But I do think we're dealing with a lot of different phenomena out there, and everybody's trying to cram it into one box. And I think that's the problem.
Hmm.
Now, if you take a if you really look at what a lot of people are talking about, they're running into the voices in the woods, the sounds in the woods, all this kind of stuff, all these little critters that they see, and everything else. Back up 500 years, what was that being called? That was the Fae.
Hmm.
I think it's the same thing. I think it's the same phenomenon, which, the phase is an umbrella term. I mean, it
Yeah, yeah,
encompasses
yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of different stuff.
yeah.
But I think it's the same crap. We're just putting a different label on
Hmm.
it,
Yeah, yeah.
And same thing with the rake. Everybody says rake was created in creepy possum. No, it wasn't. The rake, as far as I'm concerned, the rake is nothing but what we called years ago a ghoul.
Hmm.
I call them crawlers. Um, had a run in with one of them. I don't know what the hell them things are.
Yeah,
But,
that's something Brent and I had a discussion about that, and it's like I don't even want to talk about that because I don't
oh, they're
even
creepy,
know
man.
I don't even know what the like some of the stuff the my hat's off to people like you going out there and really uh getting out there and experiencing the stuff because I just can't imagine how you put some of this stuff back in the you can't put it back in the box once it's out.
Oh, you can't put it back.
Like how do you reconcile it's I mean it's one thing to do a Bigfoot. Okay. I think I could handle seeing a Bigfoot.
Right.
Okay. But a rake, um, a floating ball of heat that is intelligent, um,
Yeah.
something jump out of a tree that leaves a foot, a foot.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's beyond me. That's beyond like,
I, I don't know
man.
what to do with it, but I mean, I take precautions, and I
Hmm.
think everybody should. Um, it's I mean, I'm a God fearing man, and you know, he goes with me. Ever that's I'm protected that way for sure, and spiritually, I guess you'd call it. And then my 45 would take care of the rest of it, But
I
but
can just
honestly,
I can
I
just
don't.
see God going, oh, come on, Tex, I got nothing. I got nothing for this rake. Well, I
Yeah,
can't do anything about this rake. Would you stay away from?
but I wasn't looking for it. But I think a lot of these places are soaked in just bad energy from the history, um, because that place that we're doing the private investigation on. I mean, it's along the Chisholm Trail,
Mm,
so you had a lot of bad stuff happen,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but I mean, I can't say that for sure, you know.
yeah.
But I mean, there seems to be a lot of dark energy also related with all these places too.
Hmm.
So who
Well,
knows?
Tex, I would say number one, stay safe, keep staying safe out there. Um, and go with your team. I'm going to tell you to listen to your wife. Um, I can't believe I said no. Just kidding. Hey, I appreciate you coming on, sharing these stories. This is, like I told you, I said I came in completely not knowing anything specific,
Mhm.
and you more than delivered with this with the experiences. Um, Tell everybody, because we'll put a link at the bottom, because I do want everybody in to go check out the handprint and the forearm print and see, especially, and then stick around and look at some of your other videos. You get like 600 some videos,
Yeah, yeah,
all kinds of content to check out. So tell
yeah,
everybody
yeah. We
your page, and we'll put a link.
Well, I appreciate that. It's Texas Front Porch, and it's I know you're going to type it in state of Texas. That's not what it's spelled. It's TEX apostrophe S Front Porch because it's my front porch. Okay, it's Texas Front Porch. Um,
Not the state of
but
Texas, but
yeah,
Texas.
I mean, we discuss a whole lot of things. I love true crime. I'm really the the serial killer mind fascinates me. Um, so I delve into true crime. I delve into we do the paranormal. We do, we go look around for critters. We have live shows. Hell, I've even got my flower garden out there, and my feet and my squirrels, and my dog going nose to nose with my squirrels out in the backyard. So,
So there's something for everyone.
right, right.
Well, Tex, I appreciate you coming on. Look, you probably one of my favorite guests.
Well,
I
thank
could
you.
listen to you. Plus, you quoted David Allen Coe way back at the
Yeah.
beginning. So, anybody that quotes DAC is a friend of mine. So, so I appreciate that. I wonder how many people are like, "Oh, when did he quote David?" But thank you so much. I can't wait for everybody to check out this episode and then
I appreciate it.
go discover your page and stuff, and dig in over
One
there.
thing I do need to put out there real quick is we pulled the trigger and we're doing our own conference.
Oh,
Yeah. And we have it started out a 1 day thing. It's a 3 day event. And the conference itself is September 19th. Or I'm sorry, the conference itself is September 20th. The meet and greet and film screenings the 19th, and a ghost hunt, and we're having a couple of haunted cars there. Um, it's
what's the name of the conference?
the Crossing Realms Conference.
Crossing Rome Sky.
Crossing
All right.
Realms Conference.
All right. So you heard it. If you're not going to the Mohegan Bigfoot Festival, where I will be on September 20th, go go to the Crossing Realms Conference we're at in Texas.
It's in Missouri. It's in
Oh, it's in
Richmond,
Missouri.
Missouri.
Richmond,
Yeah.
Missouri. And if the Ozark Howler doesn't come up to the Bigfoot conference and hang out with me, we'll tell them to go down to the Crossing Realms conference. And
Yeah, because
I'm
we're in Momo country over there too. So
well, a guy that appears on the show with me on Wednesdays, we call him the Ozark Howler. He's from the
oh,
Ozarks. Yes,
oh nice.
he's a
Nice.
retired highway patrolman, sheriff's deputy, and stuff. And I think you and him would get along pretty good. Would get along good. He's a good old boy. He's got some good stories from the days
Oh, I
on
bet he does.
patrol. So well, Tex, thank you so much. Go out, check out Texas. It's not the state of Texas. It's Tex Possessive with the apostrophe S front porch. We'll put a link down below. Go check out that video and see what else Texas got to do. Thanks for
Thank you,
coming on.
Shane.
Thank
It's
you.
been a hoot.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.
God only knows what's hiding